Hey everybody, welcome here to Musicians Edition. I am Evan, and on the piano we are going to be looking at Sus2 and Sus4 chords. This is a part of my chord series. Last time I covered 7th chords, as those are super common. Now we are talking about these ones that are a bit less common but still very common, and those are sus chords. Sus stands for suspended. A sus or suspended chord is where we will swap out the third in a 1-3-5 triad and replace it with a number that is going to be listed in the sus chord. Looking at the far most common is going to be the sus2 and sus4. So a sus2 chord, we are replacing the 3 with a 2, turning a 1-3-5 triad into a 1-2-5 triad. So we'll look at C major as an example. So C major, 1-3-5 triad, C, E, G, and now turning that 1-3-5 into a 1-2-5, we need to swap this E down to the D, which is the 2. So now we get a sus2 with C here. C, D, G. And this is an example using the major second because that is what fits with our C chord, and in this C major scale we're playing. If I was playing an E minor chord in the C major scale, again just using all white keys, then I would find my sus2 instead of the 1-3-5 here. I would find that sus2 with F. So this one is a minor second because it is one note above E, E to F, versus the C sus2 was 2 notes above. Right here, C to D. So just like how we get major thirds and minor thirds with our major and minor chords, we can also get a C sus2 that could be with that major second or that minor second. And that just depends on what key we are in for which one we'll be able to take it there. It is going to be most commonly that major second because these two don't really sound nice next to each other, one note apart, but that major second is the one that is going to be most common, like in C sus2. Or we could go over to D, we could go over to E once again, F, G, A, and B. Those are all the ones in the C major scale. We can do it in any of the other scales, finding all those sus2 chords, and I encourage you to do that to practice it if you are interested. But that is what a sus2 is. The principle is the same no matter what chord you're looking at. You're swapping a third for a second. And now sus4 should be easy to look at now. We are just swapping the third for a fourth. So with C, that fourth is F. So the fourth is always going to be this perfect fourth. Pretty much always it will be that perfect fourth. Perfect fourth is 5 notes up from the root. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have found our perfect fourth that will be taking over for that third that we had. So again, that is sus4, swapping a 3 for a 4. We can look at that E minor chord again, so we can go up 5 from E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have our E sus4. Or if you just want to be able to move it from the 3, the perfect fourth is 1 note above the major third, or 2 notes above the minor third. So if we were playing E minor, we'd go up 2 to get to that fourth, or if we're playing E major, we just go up 1. So that is a sus4 chord. We can find that for every one of the chords in the C major scale. For C, for D, for E, F, G, and A, and B. Not the most pleasant sounding chords, especially when you hear them just by themselves. So these sus chords are often used to create extra tension or a feeling of being unresolved. Think about the word suspended. They leave you feeling suspended in the air, waiting for a resolution. That resolution can very commonly be ending on the regular 1-3-5 triad, using a sus4 or sus2 to create the tension that leads to it. or resolving on a different chord that will give us a nice resolution as well too. The latter of the two there, an example we can look at for that is Scientist by Coldplay. So that is a piano song dominated by this progression here. And can you spot our Sus2 in there? If I play this without the inversions, it might be a bit easier to see. So that is how the song is actually played with those inversions, but if I just play the chord straight forward, we get this. So right there at the end is where we see our Sus2 chord. We start with a D, move to a B flat, go to an F, and we finish by changing that F to an F Sus2. So that is F, G, and C. So what that does is it gives us extra tension without having to change chords. We still end on that familiar F chord, we just add additional tension to it by swapping that F major to that F Sus2. We don't often end progressions on a sus or end a song on a suspended chord. What this does at the end of this progression is it gives us a lot of tension, really bringing us back to that D major that we know is going to come next as we loop that progression. The very end of the song does not end on that Sus2, but it ends on either an F or a D, I can't quite remember. But these sus chords are not resolutions themselves. They are drawing you back to a certain chord with this feeling of suspension or extra tension, in this case on that final chord or whenever it might be used. So we could resolve from sus back to that major, or we could resolve sus back to a different chord. As it was played in this song as an inversion in the original recording, in this case you can see we move the C to the bottom instead of where it was on the top. That's our inversion of just rearranging the notes of that chord. These chords are often played as inversions like that. If we go back to just our regular C major chord, that C, D, G, which is the Sus2, we could rearrange and play D, G, and C. To get some extra space, because we might not like the C and D being played right next to each other, we can space it out. Or we can also go G, C, D up there. And what this is, actually this G, C, D, it's actually a G sus4 chord as well. So what was a C sus2, you just make an inversion out of it, and now you have a G sus4. And really, this original chord is still a G sus4, just an inversion of it. So we can swap a sus2 to a sus4 of a different chord pretty easily like that to kind of have that full circle moment where this one chord might not always mean this thing in this instance, but it could go by a different name or have a different purpose as well too. So these sus chords can be a bit flexible or interchangeable like that. And I hope that isn't too much to get into or make it confusing. Just a bit of fun in music with seeing those relationships between chords. So that is it for Sus2 and Sus4 chords. This is again the breakdown of what we just looked at. That is a Sus2 and a Sus4, 1, 2, 5, and a 1, 4, 5. Always expanding on our chord repertoire is a great thing for our creativity, giving us more options, and when it comes to learning songs, being able to better recognize these chords. Again, I've already got a video up about seventh chords. We can always add a seventh onto these Sus2 or Sus4 chords. But sticking with just this, keep in mind what those sus changes do to a chord. So you can better be able to recognize those characteristics when you hear them and know how to use them in your own songs. So again, that extra bit of tension, that extra bit of feeling suspended before a resolution to come, and that is the main purpose of these. So that is all for now, and we will see you next time at Musicians Edition.